Yeah, that's a great question. So we can certainly get after that.
Yep.
Get that answered.
And I'm here to support you, to give them resources, like we have career night, places that they can, get information from you and then start bringing people in. Because I'm kind of, for the new agents, the person that starts roping them in and talking to them while they're in license and bring them here. So I just kind of wanted to give that support to you. How can we get them in here?
Yeah, very cool. Well, thanks for being here.
No problem.
Yeah, so I think there's I guess I'll just share a little bit about my thought on it. I'm not always extremely, I think for quite a few years in the beginning I was very specific in what my activities were. And I think as years have gone on, it's a little less specific maybe, and more like part of what I want to create is I really enjoy having things. I guess probably the best word is to have every activity that I do really well leveraged. So, like when I'm making lead generation calls looking for buyers and sellers, oftentimes those leads don't pan out. Like if I want to go help someone buy or sell a house, like it can end pretty fast if those are the only areas that I can, either provide value or have some sort of a cooperative relationship pan out. So I looked at it like, okay, well, if I add profit sharing into the conversation, then there's a whole nother level. Or if I not necessarily adding profit sharing into the conversation, but adding a level of, hey, would you ever consider becoming a realtor, or who do you know? So like if they're not a buyer or seller, then I say, okay, well, if I have profit sharing on mine, what is another avenue where that conversation can go? So then now all of a sudden I can say, well, hey, would you ever consider becoming a realtor? Like we've all picked that person out on the other end of the phone where they're like, gosh, they're really wonderful at like how they interact and how they speak, the questions they ask, how engaged they are, how they follow up, where that goes. You're like, gosh, you could be an amazing realtor. Have you ever considered that? And a lot of times you're like, well, yeah, a lot of people have told me that. Well, what's holding you back? And then if that person directly doesn't go that way, then you say, well, who do you know that, maybe is like you, that carries a conversation really well and, would be just a natural for being in real estate. So you're looking for that as an opportunity. And then more recently, we've become more and more involved with different charity organizations. One of them in particular, with Best Christmas Ever. And, that's been a really cool other level, just another area to have a conversation with someone, just to develop that depth in the relationship. And the deeper those go, the better the conversation, the better the relationship, the more reciprocal it is. There's just there's a lot of fun and overlap with it. So it's almost like it's not really it's more of just a separate arm, like it's just an additional thing to really talk about, but it's not like, hey, you have to go turn this business on. It's not complicated. It's just something that can be very simple. I remember back to probably one of the most fun conversations I had, just because it ended up panning out. But the majority of the conversations just don't really go anywhere. But like I had a transaction with Derek Steinbacher, and this was an almost transaction with Derek Steinbach years ago. This is probably 10 plus years ago, where I had a buyer that was they were just on the fence, and they just wouldn't, kind of like my countryside buyer. last week they just didn't quite get to the table to make their offer. It was a perfect house for him, and I think that they had looked at 10 houses before that. That was the only one. We literally just started the search like a few days before. And they're like, oh yeah, that's what we're looking for. I'm like, you guys, I just want you to understand, like, based on the criteria you're looking for, like, this is probably the only house in the next 6 months that'll show up that's like that. And anyway, so maybe longer.
Sure.
Hard to say.
Yeah.
And so I had this. I had an almost transaction with Derek. So my buyer's thinking about making an offer on his listing, and then I think we just let it sit. He's like, hey, there's another one coming in, and it's really a funny conversation, There's a few words I probably won't repeat, but I said, hey, you know, my buyer wants to make an offer, and he's just, Derek's just such a great guy. So he responds, and he's like, you know, his response is like, well, we just signed an offer this morning, you know, and so we started a conversation, and you know, and Derek ended up joining Keller Williams, but all it was an introduction to the team leader, or at the time I think it was just to the OP. The OP was actually acting as the team leader at the time.
Oh, okay.
And they started a coaching relationship for like 8 or 9 months, and then Derek ended up, you know, joining KW and has been here for a long time,
That was originally from your conversation.
and creates an amazing, you know, part to our office. So it's not like whether they name you or not. A lot of this is you know, how do we create a working environment that we really want to be in, you know? And I think there's, if you can have an authentic relationship with someone where it's like, I know we're out trying to sell houses, right? But if we have like the idea in mind, like, hey, I need to make, you know, X dollars so that I can fund my business and fund my life. Like if that's what you're thinking about, like the whole thing doesn't work. But if you think about, hey, I'm going to go out and find, you know, a great house for these people that I'm working for, or find a great buyer for this listing that, you know, that we have. And if that's the mission, you know, for creating a great service and a great experience, and the money just sort of shows up. Well, profit sharing is no different. Profit sharing is like, well, let's just go out and find great people that we really like to spend time with, that energetically have a real fit for what our environment is. And when we attract people like that, then it works really well, and it tends to grow really well. So I don't know. It's very slow.
Yeah.
It's just like buying a rental property, though. You know, like it's very, very slow in the beginning, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
I can remember I had a conversation with Marty Rathmanner. I don't know if any of you have ever heard his name, but Marty is a guy who's at our Vadnais Heights office, I think. He's up that way, anyway, northeastern suburbs. And Marty happened to know a guy in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. This is probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And he makes a call to this guy in South Dakota. He's talking to, you know, our regional director at that time, and said, hey, you know, I have a guy you should really talk to. And he just so happens to be, you know, one of the top agents in Sioux Falls. Well, that top agent happened to be Tony Rashford. And Tony Rashford ended up, you know, what they were going to do is they were going to go after the broker, the Coldwell Banker broker, and say, hey, you know, you should really convert your office to a KW office. It's 200 and some agents. Well, he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He didn't like the idea. He didn't want to do that. He didn't understand what the impact would be. And so we just shifted to, well, hey, we've got the number one agent. Why don't we just have him go start the office? So then he and his son fly down to Austin, get really excited about the whole idea. But it wasn't so much Tony, it was his son that got more excited about it, from what I remember with the story. Right. So Marty now made the connection with him, and then now he's like literally overnight, his profit share turned into like $5,000 or $6,000 a month.
Right.
You know, because that whole office ended up being, you know, under, you know, you know. So sometimes it can be a really close connection. Like we're not always going to hit a home run that way, but it is just like if any of you have ever met Tony Rashford, just one of the nicest, most genuine, just giving people ever. He's just such a great guy. He's fun to be around. Really a great influence. Wrote I think he's at least written one book. He's maybe written more than that, but I think he has a buyer guide or some kind of a real estate book. But it's pretty cool. Sure. I actually had a conversation with him recently about Best Christmas Ever, and he got fairly excited about the concept. So sometimes it's about matching up, you know, a similar mission with a similar personality, you know, that's just someone who kind of lives and believes a lot of those same things. That works well.
That's great. Yeah, Don's at my table for bowl.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's part of my
Yeah,
table.
Don was asking me the other day, he's like, gosh, I just love being around UKW people. Like, what do you do? I'm like, well, we do, like these weird trainings. Like, there's one coming up called Bold.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's
well,
there.
why don't you just go check it out?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he goes and he signs up
Yeah.
and does it.
I'll be giving him coaching moments. He's a really good guy.
He's such a wonderful guy.
So question, how many people do you have under your downline?
In the neighborhood of 22
Wow.
or so.
And how many are first level?
I don't know.
Right.
First level is a little different. I should actually look. I haven't looked at
Starts
it.
like 7 and
I
it goes
haven't
down.
looked at it in years.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
know how many are my
No,
first
that's
level,
okay.
but I had asked everyone who was gonna name me. I asked them all to name Nicole.
Oh, sure.
So I joined, and then Nicole joined after me, and we're like, well,
Oh,
for the
nice.
first person, I
Right.
looked at it like, well, if it was the
Yeah.
first person, then we get
Yeah.
5% more if we do it that way.
Right.
But then what I maybe didn't really realize is that like all the money and profit share for the most part is made on
Right.
your deeper levels.
Right.
So like your levels 5, 6, and 7.
Sure.
It just tends to kind of bubble out in the middle and really
No.
grow as it gets to that deeper level, because hopefully you recruit one that goes recruits 2, and then they go recruit 2,
Right.
and then
Cool.
it just sort of keeps
So you gotta ask your brother
going.
to get recruiting then.
Right,
'Cause he's under
exactly.
him.
Because he's under
Oh,
me,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
so
did the
you
same
can
thing
tell your
with
brother to
Nicole.
start
Yeah.
recruiting.
Who's
Yeah.
under you?
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Welcome. We got another
Yeah.
another exciting
Yes.
There you go.
player here. One of the masters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One of the masters. We should just turn that,
Yeah, right.
and then you can start on your plan. Did I answer
Yes.
your question, or
You
is there
did.
anything more about what?
I don't think so. I think that it's intentional, obviously, but it's not something that you're not going out to look for people to join your downline.
No, and I think if you go out with that intent,
Right.
then I don't think it works.
It's the same thing as looking to
Yeah,
find buyers or sellers.
Right.
Yeah. yeah, and I'm like I said before, like I'm looking for the most leveraged kind of activity that I can do. Like if I've got someone on the phone, like I want to talk about everything. I think people probably want to keep me off the phone a lot because I'll just like, keep talking about one
Throw
thing or then
something
the
else.
other. Or,
Right.
oh, hey, we don't.
Well, that I know about you and Nicole is that it's like you also are good at looking at people and seeing their talent or seeing what their potential is. And I know y'all have conversations because you see something, like you said, if you talk to someone and they have a great personality and stuff like that, you see that about that person and offer that opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. We are always looking for great talent for our team. But I think also, there's a lot of people that aren't, they're in the same spot where we were. Like they wanted to go create something.
Right.
Like they didn't want to necessarily, join another organization or be under another organization. But, and it's I find people like that are,
Right.
very entrepreneurial.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You also never know who's going to be a team leader, or who's going to turn into an
Mhm.
OP, or
Right.
who's, there's a lot of people's past doesn't necessarily predict their future. I know a lot of performance indicators that are there.
Right.
There'll be patterns, but it's really interesting because there can be just one life change or one very impactful moment that all of a sudden changes. Like look at Don.
Mhm.
Look at
Yeah.
Don's impactful moment. He's at the edge of not living, and then has an inspiring interaction with his community
Mhm.
that was started by a close family member of his, and then he's then inspired to go live,
Right.
and then he goes and creates this incredible charitable organization that now has touched 416 people's lives, and this year could turn into 600 plus lives.
Right.
It's a pretty exciting opportunity, but like look at that one impact, that he had. His life completely changed his course,
Mhm.
for what he's doing today and the amount of people that he's impacted now.
Right.
That's pretty fun.
That is.
It's exciting.
Like somebody could have that same experience within real estate.
Yeah.
Like I think there's little moments that we can we can help people along the way, you know, like when they're in a spot, you know, like if we're looking for ways to help, there are opportunities that pop up all the time, and sometimes it's with taking, you know, 5 minutes to have a conversation, but sometimes it's also a little bit more creative solution depending on, you know, what the circumstances provide. So yeah, it's all fun.
I like that, yeah.
So what else do we want to talk about? Do you want to talk about like some of the nuts and bolts about how profit share works, or do you have an understanding of that first and foremost?
I think so. I mean,
so if you have to have a producing agent, you have to have a profitable office. So that producing agent makes a sale, and then so that a portion of that company dollar that comes in, and company dollar is the amount of money that goes to the market center, and then that money goes into this pool, and then there's 7 levels. It's divided up with a percentage on each, and like we could look at a profit share statement, and that certainly helps you like break down and understand where it's all coming from and how it all works, because sometimes it's, you know, $10 shows up in your account from one person making a sale in some other state.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, just depending on what happened with that sale or that pool. But it's really interesting. Like I have a lady who, our original market center was started by a bigger group, this Keller Williams Premier group, who opened up like 6 offices or something. They then sold to another group of 2 guys, and one of those guys had a cousin or a sister, can't remember what it was, same last name as one of the guys though, and she was working at an office in Victoria, I think. I had a transaction with this lady, her name was Sandy, and first person that ever came into Keller Williams as a result of a conversation I had, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, you're the sibling, or you're the, you know, close family member of so and so, you know, why have they not having a conversation about Keller Williams, you know, and growing the company? So I thought that was interesting, and so we just started talking, and it was just something I just sort of brought up. Like I was all fired up. I probably went to some class, some profit share class or something, and I had this transaction with her, and she was just the nicest person. I say, so what do you know, what's your plan for the future? Like, what are you up to? And like, I didn't directly ask her at all. I didn't really go about it that way. And I just so happened so she says, well, I'm actually moving to California. And I'm like, oh, well, where in California are you moving to? And she's like, oh, I'm moving to, you know, such and such city. And I had just so happened to have a class with the team leader who was in the city. So I was like, oh, well, you gotta talk to so and so, and I wasn't able to like name her name right off the top of my head. Yeah. And she's just like the woman who I introduced her to, the team leader. If this was back to the AVA, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the AVA, but the AVA has all these different, you know, these 4 different factors. Well, she was a 999. She was a 9911.
Oh.
All 4 categories had asterisks. So she's like the top like 0.5% in every category. So like the first vector is like this like it sort of relates to the disc in a way, but anyway, so high driver, really entrepreneurial, but then super personable, unbelievably impatient, and then hated systems. So just like just this like wild kind of personality. It's like, gosh, you're a freak of nature. we were in some sort of class, and we were talking about it, and so I knew what her AVA was, so I introduced this lady to her, and you know, she meets her, and she's like, oh, I just love her energy. I'm like, well, of course you do, because she's crazy. she's so fun. So I made this introduction to her, and like I'm convinced that if it wouldn't have been a connection with a lady like that, like it just wouldn't work the same way. So she's been at that office ever since.
Awesome.
And I think she joined as a team member of some other team or something. But you know, sometimes it's really easy. Like, and I got fired up after that because it was like one phone call. It's like, oh, wait, it can be that easy?
Yeah.
Like, how many other one phone calls am I missing? You know, like there's always those the low lying fruit, but then there's all the other ones that have, you know, years worth of follow up.
Mhm.
You know, and those are the ones
Yeah.
that I kind of like. It's really, gosh, is this really worth it? But then those other ones come along where they're so easy, and it's like, oh, it can't be that easy.
It's like the real estate business.
Yeah, it's like the real thing.
Yeah, but I think there was such a great mutual connection between those two ladies that we just hit it off, and I think
Yeah,
they've
they
been
were.
close friends ever since. So it's really, really kind of interesting. But you know, I think like I look at it like if I go buy, like I really like buying rental property. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And you know, you look at the amount of time, energy, and effort that it takes to go earn the money, to save, to have enough money for down payment, then to go through the lead generation strategy of like finding enough leads to go understand, hey, what is a good deal, what is not. And if I go through like all the effort with that, I'm like, gosh, this profit sharing avenue is such a no-brainer.
Mhm.
You know, how much work does it go? And then on that rental property, you know, on average, you know, maybe $500 a month in cash flow. It's like, holy cow, it's a lot of effort, a lot of everything to go make that very small amount of money.
Mhm.
Now, 20 years down the road, that starts to get really exciting, you know, because it's starting to be paid down. Cash flow is going up dramatically. You know, hopefully by that point in time, you have 1,500 worth of profit share by that point.
All your downline and your
Oh,
last
cool.
statement and all that stuff. You have a lot more than 20 people.
Oh, I do. Okay.
Dude, watch
Thank
it,
you.
it's like, Funny. So how many people do you have?
I don't know, but there are a lot more. Oh my gosh. So the lady I talked to you about, who went to California, she now has, she has 8 people that she recruited, and then someone else that she recruited somebody. I don't know how many people are on here, but there's quite a few pages. I don't know, there's maybe 100 here actually. Sorry, I was a little off.
That's probably why she gave like,
I was a little off.
Well, are you only really counting the 22 that
Well, I
maybe
think
you
you-
recruited
yes, you
versus all the
recruited.
people?
Well,
on the
I think,
queue?
yeah, I think when I looked at it like that, it was, I looked at who Nicole and I had brought in.
Sure.
But that number still wasn't 22. Like that number's still only like probably 7 or
Sure.
8. Actually, I have it right here. I was off on that too. That's 19.
Got the two of
You have 19 level ones?
There are 19 level ones here.
Well, level 2 is for him, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so
Nice.
people that we.
So you put them on there, Nicole.
Yeah, is that how that works? Yeah, because these would be listed as one. So Nicole is on here as a 1.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute. There's one of these names shows up twice. I don't know why that would be. Oh, she's part of 2 market centers probably. I don't know how that's.
You can be, what does that mean?
Probably out of state.
Okay.
No. No, these are both local market centers. Anyway, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to ask for some help on explaining
Okay.
what that means. But yeah, no, there's quite a few people here. This is really fun because there are a lot of names I don't know that are on here. In the reports inside the system, I remember like 5 or 6 years ago there was a major change in how you could look this up, and then when they changed to this new system,
I knew she was coming.
it takes a little while to understand.
Looking at?
It takes a little while to understand like what
It does.
like how to load it.
Mm-hmm. What were you wondering what
No,
was
she
on
was
it?
saying there was a duplicate name.
Oh,
Yeah, no, there was a duplicate name. This one, so she's part of 991 and of
So she's
600.
staff somewhere.
Is that what
So
that
she
means?
has a
Is that-
staff, yep,
is
she's
that
doing
PO?
staff for someone
Okay.
out of another market center.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that
So
would that's
she shows up
the-
in two different, yep, so she's kinda showing in two different market centers.
yeah.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I've not.
And the VR, you know,
Yeah,
like
I've seen that.
he's vested, but he's
Vested,
still
but
getting the
re-
profit share and in the down line,
Yeah.
and still getting profit share from him.
Oh, that's what that means?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Vested?
The
Yeah.
VR.
Vested.
Yep.
Vested removed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, that still comes to them every month, just a statement just like this, to all those vested people.
As long as they remember to pay their $25
annual fee in
annual
January.
fee.
Mm-hmm.
There was an agent that was at our market center here that had helped us grow quite a bit. And the individual moved and forgot to pay the fee. And today, that profit share would probably be close to $6,000 a month.
Wow.
And it's just not coming in, not coming into that account. So,
It's a local agent.
Cause
Yeah.
of the $25 fee?
yeah. What's the return on 25
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we just-
what was 6,000
Yeah.
6,000 times 12 is
I don't know.
130, 100,
Some-
I don't know,
some-
120 something thousand
Right.
maybe a year, 130,000 something.
Yeah.
Wild,
Hmm.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though.
And that's
Thank you very much for
That's
that.
actually a question I had, Heather, maybe you can answer. When an agent leaves and they're not, have not been vested,
Mm-hmm.
but they brought someone into the company, what happens to that agent's
They
profit
move
share?
up to that, whoever sponsored them, so they move up in the down line.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
goes up to the next person.
Just skips others.
Okay.
Yeah, there's people that
Vested
have
is
left
3 years.
days before their third anniversary
Yeah.
too,
And brought people under.
and brought people on and just didn't realize it.
Wow.
But
Okay.
you know, just like how the thing can grow without you not even knowing it. You know, like this is more than doubled since the last time I looked at it, which was probably a year and a half ago.
And this you all have access to, it's under your, I mean, all of your, but under your reports, you know, on your first page of kw.com where your picture is right underneath there, it says reports, and this is all under your profit share key.
Hmm.
Profit share tab.
Hmm.
So, that's why it took me so long to get it, cause I get the whole entire company, so I had to go to, get to page 75,102 or something. But you guys can see it right away.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So what else do you guys want to
Yes.
talk about? Like what else would be helpful to understand about?
I'm trying to look
It
at the
doesn't-
numbers.
It doesn't have to be about profit share either. Well, here's this one. Here,
Thank you.
there's Nicole's. You can just see how the breakdown works.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, is the levels and percentage, that was always confusing for me.
Well, the percentage is it's weird.
Yeah, it's the whole breakdown.
It goes
is
from 50% to 5, and then to
to
10
to jump back
to 12, and like 6 or something.
And what's level 7?
Is 12, I think,
The
again.
12, yeah,
It
for the
might think it
percentage.
bumps up
That's-
again.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's weird because it drops way down and
And
then
then comes-
sort of
keeps coming
ramps back up.
Yeah,
Oh, those
Yeah.
are level twos, sorry. That's
yeah,
it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd love to know, like,
yeah.
who was it? Can't remember what the guy's name was who came up with the formula for it. But has anyone ever heard that story or anything about that? There was the guy who designed this system was dying of some terminal illness, and so he was in he knew he was going to live for a certain amount of time, but I think he made it maybe 6 months or a year or 6 months or 9 months or something, and I can't remember who was helping document it, but they had someone hired who was helping this guy document the profit sharing system and the percentages and why and how it was all set up, and I think it was like the computer formula or whatever, but they were designing it and took months and months and months to figure it out, but that was sort of his last thing that he did, and it was, I don't know, there's a great story about it. I think I'm sure there's a video of it in KW Connect. That it's fun to hear the history on a lot of these different things, like who set it up. Like I wish I could remember the guy's name, but I can't. I've been a little a little detached from it for a while. So, yeah, but there's you know, there's people who have I don't know if you know this fact about profit sharing, but it gets passed on.
Mm. So,
you know, like you have a profit share tree, you pass away, go to your kids, you can deed it to someone else. Like there's a great story of a guy who had no family or very little family, and he lived next door to this other family. You know, they always struggled to make ends meet, and had a whole bunch of kids, like 5 or 6 kids or something. And when the guy passed away, he deeded his profit share to his neighbor, you know, to the family. It's just such a cool story.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean today that profit share, I mean they're probably could almost stop working within 5 or so years of that happening.
Right.
You know, I mean today I bet that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would think.
That's a powerful statement, because people look at the profit share now and they don't look at the longevity of what this can build for retirement, for your future, for your family.
Yeah, I mean there have been months where it's been $3,000 a month for us. I think profit share year to date on this one it's showing 86, and then that one's showing 5,400.
14,000.
Yeah, so I mean 14,000 is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know,
It's very good.
but there's a couple months in the summer sometimes like I've seen it get to 3,000, which is pretty wild.
That's awesome, yeah.
It's hard to find, you know, to purchase enough rental property that get to $3,000 a month. I mean, it takes some time.
Mhm.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a pretty awesome opportunity. So what is the thing that like holds you back from not pursuing something actively with it?
Probably just because I haven't included it in the conversations. So,
What if
which
you,
is something that's very easy, as you said, when you're talking about buyers or sellers or best Christmas ever, you throw this into as part of the conversation, and that opens up a whole nother arm like you talked about, so.
yeah.
It's just something I need to add to.
Well, and it's
conversation.
interesting because the more things you have to talk about, you know, the deeper that conversation gets, and they might be a no for buying or selling right now. They might be a
Right.
no for buying or selling with you right now. But then you go and you talk about, hey, well, would you ever become an agent, or you know, would you be interested in, you know, I don't know,
Right.
like, hey, we're supporting this great family, you know, that had, you know, this, you know, there's this guy this year, this family that we're supporting, he needs a liver transplant. He needs a liver, and I don't know, from my understanding, a liver, they just take a slice off the liver, and then they like go paste it on the new one, and then it just regenerates or something. And then the person who donates gets back to 100% within 12 months.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually really not that big of a deal. You're
Right,
only in
right.
the hospital for 5 days. I mean, that's
Wow.
not the end of the world, but to save somebody's life to be able to do that is pretty cool. And I think this guy's O
Rare,
or O,
right.
O or O negative. I can't remember what his blood type is, but so we want to try and spread the word to find a donor for him. But then we're also talking about doing some other things, like we were talking about donating list side commission and auction it off. So like if somebody has a $1 million property, they could, you know, who knows what the high bid will be, but what if the high bid were like 6,000 or 7,000? They get a gigantic discount on their list side commission, but then we donate, you know, all the money that comes from it, and you know, just create some awareness,
Right.
you know, about it. But we've got a musician come in. We've got a whole event that we're putting on, you know, to support it. Should be pretty interesting. We're doing that in November. But that's all really around BCE. You know, we try and find people that are like, that really sort of hit home with us. So the guy that we're choosing to support is was a Wayzata grad. I went to Wayzata High School.
Okay.
So we're just trying to find like personal connections.
Right.
Like the family we chose last year, my kids went to school with their kids, and just maximum impact. Because there's the hardest thing is giving away, things like that. You feels like you never really feel the impact yourself of like where's it going. Like you go and donate this money or donate this time or whatever. Like when we go to the food shelf and donate food or pack meals or whatever that go to whatever organization, go to the troops or go to whatever family. It's like we never really see the impact. Like, did it really get there? Like who was the person who actually ate the meal that we, put together? Like we donate that time. Like it's sort of a, like it feels good, but it's a little empty. Like there's not like that human connection that's just missing. So like a deal like this, like any one of you could also go and support a family through Best Christmas Ever. Like you go choose a family that you're close with, and figure out how to get them nominated and then support them.
Sure.
It's a really cool thing, like the amount of people you get to connect with too. And you can do profit share conversations all along the way.
Yeah.
Like think about how many realtors you could get introduced to that aren't realtors yet.
Right.
Anything else?
You have any questions?
Or should we wrap up? I can keep talking. I just need a little bit more direction.
I think we asked all the questions. Let's see if Kevin had questions.
If I have questions for Tony. I'm meeting with Best Christmas Ever guy tomorrow.
With Don?
Yeah.
He sits at the table too.
So he'll be.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. Have you heard his story?
Mm-mm.
Oh, he's got a great story. Tell him to give you at least the 10-minute version.
Yeah, he told me.
At least the 10-minute version.
He's got that thing narrowed down. When I heard him speak for the first time last year, he shared like a 10 or 12-minute version, and then just Labor Day, we were at the same event, the same charity event, and he shared the story, but it was like 30 seconds. Like, where was the depth of the story and like what happened and how it all played out, and who were the people who impacted you and how did they do the whole thing? It was really interesting. Such a great story.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I think profit share from a TL standpoint is it's an interesting thing because you don't want it to be self-serving, right? Like, hey, help me grow this thing, and which one of the reasons profit share exists is to, hey, let's grow this thing, and Tony's used to 15,000. Dana was 18,000 last year. And think of the money that would have to be in the bank in order for you to just get those returns, and it's not going to get smaller. That's people's profit shares and getting smaller, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we paid out $1 billion. I think it's 2 years ago we finally paid out $1 billion. In the next 5 years, expect to pay another $1 billion out in profit share. There's huge opportunities in that way, and I'm a huge fan of, if you tell me, hey, just talk to this person, and it always is better if you set it up, and that way it doesn't feel like. But when it comes time to that profit share piece, is, hey, the only reason I'm sitting here talking to you is because Ben said we should meet. So I encourage you to write his name down, or or is there someone else that you would want to write down?
Well, and the more you can develop that relationship with that agent
For
first,
sure.
Right.
the better that.
More powerful it is.
Yeah.
100% true, right?
And I like meeting with him and talking to him first before like I ever want to just throw them at Kevin, because I don't want his time
Wasted.
spent on somebody that's not really
Serious enough.
open to a conversation. But at the same time, it's also about at bats.
Yeah,
The
for sure.
more at bats we can have, the better.
And Tony, you're really good at building relationship time over time, right? So there's a couple agents that, should they ever come, well, I know, hey, this is the person that 3 years ago, I know you're talking to this person. So, that kind of pieces, it doesn't have to be bombarding, but one person I call and they're like, yeah, I talk to Tony all the time. You know, it's just not in the same spot yet. Okay, great. You know, but when he is, then that will be profit share that way. You know, so those are the kind of things. They don't have to be unnatural relationships, and it's just, hey, this might be good for you if you are a $10 million producer. I can say this pretty strongly. If you're a $10 million producer, then the numbers across all make sense to be just number wise, not any growth, not anything else. Just that's the best bang for the buck, right? And or if you're a person who does a lot of transactions, then again, numbers wise makes sense. Or if you're a person that's going to do, you know, between $1 or $2 million for the rest of Keller Williams, might not be the place for you. There are cheaper places to be there, but if you'd like to grow your business, if you'd like to, there's a lot of different pieces that there's value here, and if it can be more than a, you know, the hard spot is when you still want to come from contribution, right? But if you really believe this could be really good, then it's an easier story to tell.
Well, and what are the top reasons why people choose KW in general now?
Yeah.
Is it the same as what it was years ago, or what is the conversation around?
Yeah. Well,
that?
the things I still hear are build a business, right? So it's a place I want to come to for training or the thinking around building a business. It's just a different way to look at your business. Or if I need to add, and more companies now are talking about, okay, how do you leverage and do some of the things there? But Keller's kind of the place to do it. It has the system. The capping model is still a nice model for people that are growing. Technology, and it's from the inside, you know, we can be more critical but from the outside, if you can come in and compare your technology cost and you see some of the things that are available for you right now, that's a couple, you know, multiple people have said the technology piece. And then it's the, you know, the culture of sharing, training and coaching, and it's not just from top down, but peers are willing to do that. You guys are, I mean, that's something special too. So
when I remember the top two, you know, you hit on them, not necessarily in the same order, but I remember the top two always being training and culture.
Yeah.
Like those were the two reasons why someone ever chose to go to KW, and there's like, you know, 7 or 8 different possibilities or major reasons why, and I remember profit sharing was always the absolute bottom of the bottom. Like it was never a reason why anybody joined. If somebody joins for that, they're never going to stay.
Yeah.
You know, or they won't stay unless they really like, you know, figure out all the rest of the benefits and the reasons why you're here. Because again, you can be somewhere else that's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, for sure.
To get back to, you know, earning $25,000 a year in profit sharing, where you're essentially at 100%, where you don't pay any money to be associated with the company. You know, it takes a long time to get there. So I don't know.
And I think it continues to be the training and you know, or the training, and I would say even more on that is the training, the mindset, the thinking, and then the culture piece too and then technology is right in there as well.
Technology's good.
So it's interesting. And we have such an awesome building. I mean, that's our
It's the bathroom stuff.
That's what people are so excited about. Really? Could be there? So,
I like this building a lot.
yeah.
It's grown on me.
Has it?
It was tough. I don't know if anyone ever knows this story, but when we first moved in here, there was no carpet, there was no ceiling. The lights didn't work. The only room that was mostly finished was the basement. So we moved our entire office of not quite 100 people and it was only people who really wanted to
Basement.
work in the office. We were all in that one room in the basement.
Oh
And I remember we were like 4 of us were confined to like two tiny little desks, and we stuck up these temporary sort of cubicles, and you know it was hard on a lot of people. A lot of people were like, "This is sort of a joke," you know, to move us from there to here. But you know, like I think when culture is really strong, you can kind of do anything. Like I could never imagine, you know, one of our other competitors keeping their agents through a transition like that, because we were like that. It was at least 3 or 4 months before the upstairs got finished. I mean, it wasn't like it was a couple weeks. Like this was a long time, and it was a big deal. We did lose two of our top agents. There was a third that retired and just said, "Hey, you know, I'm gonna just retire now." Sort of makes sense. But 2 of those other top agents, you know, that left. I mean, I think part of it was just I think there was a cultural piece there. Like we just weren't on the same page, because ultimately it doesn't really matter where we are. Like the space that we have, like our relationships aren't going to be any different. The conversations aren't going to be any different. You know. I don't know. I mean, the next space is just going to cost more money anyway. I got to get new furniture because, like, well, gosh, we should probably like get some comfy chairs. You know.
One of the.
I love the new comfy chairs.
I can't.
Did you get them upstairs
I'm
already?
Excited about it.
Did you get comfy chairs already?
We went shopping the other day though.
Did you?
For some comfy chairs. I found these chairs. They're like these recliners. They're like, I can't remember what brand they are, but they're chairs you'd sit in front of your TV.
Yeah,
You know, they're
fall
like
asleep on that.
they're like full recliners. But I'm thinking about getting. They also have the same version. You can get an office chair, like a rolly thing, and just attach that to the bottom. So that might be pretty interesting. Might see a little less
Shades
production. Might be either more. There'll either be more, or there'll be more because we're better rested. There'll be less because we're asleep.
Table.
Figure out how to do those 5-minute power naps.
I'm most excited in our new space about being on the same floor and bumping into each other once in a while, and you know, some of that stuff is pretty exciting. And then our training room will be the best training room in the Twin Cities. I mean, it's a spot where we can. I've been talking to Trey a little bit about this. Of what's the value proposition of our market center, and you know, we're unique in that we have some highly productive teams, right? And so that's one of the things that we want to make sure that we're continuing to bring value to the highly productive teams. And one of the fun things about that is you know, if you're teaching to a standard up here, other people are going to come up to that. But if we're teaching to a standard that, hey, let's get some up and coming, and well, that eliminates that whole group. But if we go, hey, let's bring value to Ben and Tony, then Jelena, you're going to be right there going, hey, this is going to be value to me as well.
Right.
You know, and some of those things to get pretty excited about. So
A place that people don't want to leave.
that's right. That's right. So then when you tie it back into profit share, so when people come, they stay, and then they want to bring, you know, more and more and more. So awesome.
Good stuff.
Let's see, Tony, if we have any questions. It was so sad when we first moved. We were all in the basement
Who's that?
together. That was Ashley said that.
Oh, come on, that was fun.
That was fun.
And Nicole is on here watching too, and she hasn't said anything yet. So awesome.
She probably didn't like that space down there.
All right. Well, anything else?
That's it.
Thanks.
I'm
Tony.
always here for questions, always here to chat.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I guess I have more credibility than I thought.
Let's have a conversation.